Hi, I'm Dylan Cox and welcome to the third episode of my weekly boxing video blog for Secondsout.com. Thanks everyone again who watched last week and thanks for your comment. So first, where to start, it's the biggest news in the UK this week that I can think of, and that is that Amir Khan has split with his long-term manager Asif Vali. Now Asif's been with the Khans right since Amir turned pro back in 2005 when he was with Frank Warren and he was with Oliver Harrison as a trainer. And Asif's been through that full journey with Amir when he left Harrison and then he went with Jorge Rubio for one fight, and then he left him, and then he went with Freddie Roach, and then he left Frank Warren, and he stayed with Freddie Roach, and he went to Golden Boy, and then he left Freddie Roach, and he's gone to Virgil Hunter. So he's been through that whole process, and he's obviously had a lot to do with those dealings with both the promoters and the trainers and manager and trainers, etc. So Valley's gone for whatever reason. They've split amicably. If you look at their Twitters, it seems still very friendly between the two. And he's gone on to pastures new. And that's significant because everybody that I know of is speculating that Khan will now sign a deal with Al Heyman, the world-famous but not very well-known manager to some of boxing's biggest stars, most notably Floyd Mayweather Jr. Now, Al operates on the fringes. You don't really see him ringside, you don't see him at post-fight press conferences, you won't see his interviews on YouTube, you won't see interviews in the press. He likes to keep a low profile, but his power in the sport is undeniable. And those of you who follow the sport closely will know some of the things that he has been able to structure for his fighters, but also some of the criticisms that are levelled at him. One of the main criticisms is that he offers and maximises a fighter's potential by getting them fights that are fairly easy for very good money. Well, I think one of the classic examples of that was he had Andre Berto fighting somebody, I can't even remember who it was, but in front of about 1,000 people in some obscure venue somewhere, and Berto was getting paid $1.2 million by HBO, and it's an unheard of kind of deal that he managed to structure. So he's got the power. He structured this unbelievable deal for Floyd Mayweather, where he basically gets a cut of everything that is sold in the build up to his fight. We're talking about cuts from key rings, hats, t-shirts, mugs, and the revenue that he can generate. The fact that Mayweather now pays his opponents up front, he wires them the money himself. It doesn't come from a promoter. Just shows the kind of A, the wealth that Mayweather's got, obviously, but B, the way that Al Heyman has structured smart deals that Mayweather can hold on to the majority of his earnings without having to pay it out to different various associates. So Al Heyman's got this real power pull. He comes from a music promotional background, doing events and tours, etc. Harvard graduate, clearly a smart guy. But someone that is feared, I believe, in boxing, and that's what a lot of people say. He doesn't deal in person a lot. He can be quite ruthless. Boxing is a business, as we know, and it is a ruthless business, so obviously he's succeeded as one of the top guys. But interestingly, with Khan joining him, that probably makes a Khan-Mayweather fight quite close to happening. And I think that's probably what Khan's major factor in joining forces with Heyman would be. It's not been confirmed as of me filming this that Khan has gone with Heyman, but I'd be surprised if he doesn't. And I'd be surprised if his main reasons for going with him is because he wants to maximise his earning potential with a fight with Mayweather, but also get a fair split with Mayweather. I don't think that's him freezing out Golden Boy by any stretch of the imagination. I just think it's him getting the very best out of the deal, and now Heyman can secure that. Even though the fight will be on Showtime now, not HBO, Heyman's obviously had a shift from HBO, where it used to be called the Heyman Boxing Organisation, as opposed to it's what it really stands for. But he's got a certain pull, and it's an interesting move from Khan to split with Valley and open his options to maybe going with someone like Al Heyman. And it would be the first British fighter that I know of that would be working with Heyman. And you look at someone like Joshua, who's just turned pro and he's talked to everybody. I wonder if he had any discussions with Al Heyman about a managerial contract, because interestingly, Joshua's gone with a managerial sports agency. So he must have a manager in principle who's registered with the British Board of Control. It won't be someone from that agency, but he'll have like Anthony Ogogo's got Mickey Cantwell as his manager, but he's actually got Dean Baker who works for Wasserman Media Group as his management company, and that seems what a lot of these Olympians have done, because they want to maximise their earning potential outside of the sport, and big PR management companies can do that. So it'd be interesting to see, that's in the UK, it'd be interesting to see if Heyman, through Khan, will then make any other deals with UK fighters and see how that exposure helps them. You may have seen after the Broner-Malignaggi fight, Malignaggi just going off about Al Heyman and basically slagging him off and all this. And it's obviously a bit of a bugbear for someone like Malinessi, and Broner being managed by Heyman as well. So he's not without criticism there, but if Khan can get a big fight against Mayweather and get a good sum of money, I think it will prove to have been the right decision for him financially. Whether it is for his career wise, I think Mayweather would handle Khan even at this stage of his career quite easily. But he's the holy grail for any fighter around 140 to 154. You'd want to fight Floyd Mayweather because of the earning potential that you could get out of that fight. So the season over here in the UK is pretty much finished. The 2012-2013 season was purely one of excitement and one of lots of sort of news, really. It's been one with lots of controversy that mainly centred around the Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Sport battle with Frank Warren. And I call it a battle because that's a light-hearted term. I don't mean that in the sense that they're physically battling, but they are, they've had some run-ins, and a lot of fighters have defected from Frank Warren to Eddie Hearn's Matchroom Sport. You've had the likes of Tony Bellew, you've had the likes of Kell Brook defected from there, but you've also recently had Ricky Burns, George Groves, a number of guys that you thought, okay, that they were long-term servants to the sport and worked with Frank Warren for a long time, but they've gone across the border. But then Frank Warren, through Box Nation, has got Carl Frampton from the Hearns, so it's been interesting. But I think on balance, Eddie Hearn has had a very strong deal with Sky to get all these dates, but on balance, I think he has probably put on the better quality of shows than Frank Warren, but Frank Warren has put on some good shows, some good cards with the stable that he's got, and he's also not neglecting guys that he's building up, and I think that's one thing don't overlook about Frank Warren, is that he will continue to build stars, and he will do that in the way that he's always done it. And you need to look no further than someone like Ricky Hatton or even Joe Calzaghe. Joe Calzaghe, great fighter, but not the most marketable guy in the world, but Frank still got him to the very top of the sport, undefeated, and a profile and a money in the bank that people can't question. Yes, he may have gone a bit awry with the suings at the end and stuff, but he did build those fighters up, and you can't deny that. And time will tell if Eddie can do the same with his young guys. He seems to be doing a good job so far, but we'll see. And if if they stick with the sport, and B, if he's able to satisfy the thirst that all these young guys are going to have, because he's got to he's got to promote and build each of those fighters individually. My highlights for the year have been seeing Scott Quigg back in action recently, looking great. He's been really dedicated, and I think I've got to give a shout out to Joe Gallagher, really, because he's got quite a broad team there. He's got a broad stable in his gym there, Joe Gallagher. He's got a number of good boxers, and he came under a lot of criticism with John Murray and even Matthew Macklin and people like that. They were only guys who could fight one way. That was a criticism. But I think he's shown recently with Crawler, he's shown with Scott Quigg, he's shown with Callum Smith, he's shown with Paul Smith, that he can adapt his fighters and he can adapt his game plan. I know I've met Joe once, but I've seen a lot of interviews with him. I've seen a lot, talked with a lot of people about Joe Gallagher. He's fanatical about the sport, and he's dedicated to the sport more so than most coaches you'll come across, I think. But he is obviously not neglected the fact that he needs to learn. The other thing I like about Joe is he's gone through the amateur system as a coach as well. So he's got all his coaching badges. I think he was a level 3 amateur coach, and he, I say this because I think professional boxing fans who haven't experienced amateur boxing often think that amateur means that the sport is amateur. It couldn't be further from the truth. The amateur setup is actually more professional than the professional setup in terms of governance, in terms of support for coaches, in terms of support for boxers, I believe. If you look at the professional game, they've only recently, the Board of Control over here, started putting in proper courses for coaches, proper first aid, proper training courses. It used to be, I believe, you just go in front of the board, you'd maybe have to do a demonstration, and you just do an interview. Whereas the ABA have for years been running, we're talking about years and years and years, they've had a very structured coaching system where you have a level 1 assistant coach course, a level 2 full coach course, a senior course, and then an advanced course. And that actually can give a lot of coaches the tools they need to go on to be successful coaches. And yes, I know there's a lot of talk about the sport's very different, that professional coaches, but you look at some of the top professional coaches, they have been through their amateur system. And I think that enough credit is given to that, and I think Joe probably learnt a lot through that, but he's also developed fantastically as a professional coach through his own learnings, through his own travels, and through his own skills. But I think that stable's excited me, both on the Matchroom side and on the Frank Warren side. You know, the fighters working with both camps. And I think it's been a good year for his guys. And shout out to Guerrilla Productions, because if anyone saw that video he did on Gallagher's Gym and the one he's done on the Mayweather Canelo thing. I mean, I've been watching GP for was it 2008, was it? He did that Muhammad Ali one or something, and that's, 5-6 years ago, and he's just been making great trailers and stuff. So if you're not already following him on YouTube and subscribing to him on YouTube, or following him on Twitter, you've got to, because GP Productions is it's just he's brilliant, the guy who does that. Shout out to you, my friend. So a few other things just before I leave you today. We're going to be looking at the Darren Barker-Daniel Gill fight in our next episode, and just going over some of their recent fights and the styles and possible tactics for their upcoming IBF middleweight clash. That's going to be a good fight. But on the same note, we've also got Cleverly versus Kovalev, and I'm going to be talking about Kovalev, and we're going to find out a little bit more about who he is, and is he this danger man that everybody perceives him to be, and how Nathan, if he wins that fight, can then go into some really big fights in the light heavyweight division. Please do like, comment and share this video, and obviously tweet at me, Dylan Cox Boxing, or at Secondsout Live with any feedback or suggestions. Also, maybe a name for the show would be good. Best suggestion will win a small boxing related prize. I won't reveal it just yet because I haven't decided what it is, but I've got a few boxing things that I can throw away. And so if anybody wants to suggest a name for the show, just get at us on Twitter or via a comment on the YouTube page. But until next week, thanks very much. Stay safe, fight fans, and I'll see you all again the same time next week.